Hello again, Homewood Patriot fans. Welcome to this episode of Legends of Homewood Patriots Football, featuring our 13th legend, Tim Hawthorne. In the last 4 episodes, we've been discussing the dynasty years of Homewood football when the Patriots won 4 state championships in 6 years. With our 13th legend, Tim Hawthorne, we wrap up that discussion. As a freshman, Tim found himself called up late in the season to play for the varsity and actually started in the semifinals and the championship game in 2002 when the Patriots beat Russellville for their 3rd state championship. He was then a full-time starter as the Patriots lost in the semifinals to Briarwood in 2003, and then as they won 2 state championships back-to-back in 2004 and 2005. Against Russellville and Buckhorn, respectively. In 2005, the Patriots won a perfect 15-0, a feat yet to be duplicated by any Homewood team. Obviously, that team was loaded with stars, from which I could have added many other legends to this list, such as Steve Freeman, Homewood's 3rd all-time leading rusher, Aaron Feld, the all-time Patriot sack leader, or Stan Galbraith, the leading tackler in Homewood history. In total, that Homewood team had no fewer than 11 Patriots who were honored by the Alabama Sports Writers Association as an all-state player or an honorable mention. They were by far the most decorated team in Homewood history. But Hawthorne was the biggest star of all on that team. At 6'3" and 200 pounds, Tim became a 5-star recruit at wide receiver who was rated the number 4 prospect in the country by Rivals, and who was recently chosen by AL.com as the 4th best receiver for the past 25 years of Alabama high school football history. Committing to Auburn during Tommy Tuberville's heyday on the Plains, a tragic car wreck and injuries plagued Tim's time there. But he graduated and then played his last year of college eligibility for the University of North Alabama and head coach Terry Bowden, becoming their 2nd leading receiver. More injuries were to come, but Hawthorne finished up his football career playing professional football in the Canadian League. Today, Tim and his bride of 2 years, Ashlyn, are living back in the Birmingham area in McCalla and expecting their first child in November. He's a busy man that, with that baby coming, is about to get a whole lot busier. But I'm happy that he found the time to discuss with me that special Homewood team and his years as a Patriot. And as you'll see, he made an effort to do so in a very special location. And so, without further ado, let's bring in our 13th Homewood Patriot legend, Tim Hawthorne. Hello there, Tim Hawthorne. Coming to us from a very special location. You can show everybody where you're at, Tim.
Game ready. I've got the game worn jersey. You can see right behind me, I've got my freshman jersey, game worn, 84. Okay.
Awesome.
And I'm honored. Mr. Atkins and Jim opened up this place that I'm at, and I'm going to go ahead and show you where I am. You can see that.
Yes.
This is where it all went down.
Yes.
The infamous Waldrop Stadium.
And it is looking great. There's the new scoreboard. Grass looks good.
Yes, sir.
Ready for the season.
Yes, sir. So yes.
So that's got you in the right mood, right?
It does. It does. It kind of feels surreal, taking me all the way back to
That's
2002 through 2006. So
that's great. Well, let's jump right in here. Were you born in Birmingham?
I was born in Nashville, Tennessee Baptist Hospital, which is kind of like why I grew up a Tennessee Volunteer fan. I know a lot of people probably don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that.
But I actually moved down to Birmingham when I was about 4 years old. I started at All Saints, to bring it all the way back. All Saints. Then I went to Hall Kent, where Mr. Allison was the principal. And then, of course, middle school and high school.
What was one of the things you loved most about growing up in Homewood?
It was a huge melting pot to me. It wasn't just predominantly white. You had Black, you had Hispanics, you had people that came from Kenya. So you had quite a different type of people that actually lived in Homewood, especially going through the school system. I got to see that a lot.
Yeah, that's one of the most special things about Homewood, and really always has been since the beginning of Homewood. When did you start playing organized football?
I didn't start playing organized football until I was in the seventh grade in Homewood Middle School. So a funny story is Aaron Phil, who was my fellow classmate and teammate, his father was the coach of the Homewood Youth Football League. He literally one night came to my house and he begged my parents for me to play my sixth grade year. My
So
dad was
you must have already been a physical specimen there. Were you
I had some height on me, but I definitely was very fast. That is for sure. That is for sure. So, long story short, dad was on board. My mom, she was not having it. She said, no,
not gonna
it
hurt
broke
my
my
baby?
heart. Yes. So it broke my heart. No, my mom did not want me to have contact just of yet when it came to football. And I think she knew what she was doing, trying to preserve me.
So by the time you got to high school, they already knew that you were something special, right?
I believe the coaching staff in middle school knew that we were pretty special as a group. We only lost one game in middle school, if I recall. Went undefeated our seventh grade year, won the little area league, and then our eighth grade year, I ended up getting hurt, breaking my fibula in my leg, and I was out for
Yeah.
the remainder of
And
the
your mom
season.
was like, "I told you so."
Exactly, right? Exactly. So I think the coaching staff knew we were pretty special when we left the middle school and transitioned into the ninth grade as freshmen to the high school. Our freshman year, more people as the season came along actually was moved up from JV and dressed out for the varsity. And, we had games in hand early that 2002 season, and a lot of people got a chance to play.
So you played as a freshman in 2002.
Yes, I have a funny story about that too in this jersey right behind me.
All right.
So we lose to Briarwood at Briarwood the first game, okay, in the regular season. And I recall the playoff game when we had to go back because they won the region that year, I
Yep.
believe.
Yep.
And we ended up beating them to go, I think, to I think it was the state championship game.
Yeah, that was the semifinal game. Yeah.
That was the first game that I actually started. But funny story is we get on the bus. By the time we get to Briarwood, I realized that I don't have my shoulder pads. I have my helmet and my jersey, and that's it. And I'm like, this can't be happening to me. Not the first game that I'm going to be starting. So I tell Coach Penley, and I'm like, are you going to be able to get my pads? He was like, well, you're going to have to use these just in case. And when I tell you, he gave me like some 1952 pads that were old, hard, very uncomfortable.
Very bulky, large.
Oh man, they were just old, and I don't think they would have lasted a series. But he ended up putting a call in, and if I recall, police officer raced to the high school, got my real pads, and came back literally right before we were supposed to go out into the field for the kickoff. And I ended up
Wow.
getting my real pads just in the nick of time.
Wow, that's a great story.
Yes. Yes.
Did
So
Newt never find out about it? He would have lost his mind if he had found out about that.
he definitely knew. He definitely knew. And you can only imagine what that conversation was like.
Yeah.
Uh,
What about the next week in the championship game against Russellville? Did you start in that one too?
I did. So I do remember it being extremely cold. My first game ever in Legion Field. They had a lot of big athletes out there. I mean, D1 guys on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So, but it's just a true testament to Coach Jones, Coach Wright, Coach Newton, and all the rest of the coaches' game plan at the time. And we executed pretty well. Brandon Thornton, for sure
Yeah.
played a big role. Parker Gargis definitely played a huge role. Freddie had some catches as well. The defense ended up standing up late in the game as
Yep.
well. I think Rodney Shepherd had a huge sack, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah.
So we really stepped up when we needed to.
So 2003, the next season, your sophomore year, you're a starter at that point. And so you
Full-time starter.
full-time starter at that point. In the regular season, what games stand out to you in that season?
Regular season, we ended up losing to, I think, Vestavia. We absolutely were overmatched, and we absolutely got annihilated that game. Embarrassing. It was the worst loss of my senior class's career, for sure. That was a real wake-up call that, hey, whatever high horse that you guys are on, you can be brought back to reality. And we responded pretty well. We had to play Briarwood in the rematch, and we had beat them in the regular season.
Right.
And then played them in the semifinal. And Brandon Thornton was not 100% by far.
Yeah.
I think he had something going on with his groin or something, if I recall.
Yeah. I'm a big believer that if he hadn't gotten hurt, that we roll them and then win the championship. And I'd be talking to a 4-time champion right now.
Probably, probably so, right?
Yeah. How
But
crushing was that? I mean, that loss and then the getting humbled by Vestavia, did that sort of fuel you guys for the junior and senior years?
absolutely, Glenn. Absolutely. To be honest with you, sometimes, the L's are not necessarily losses, right? They're
Yeah.
lessons. And I can assure you 2003 for my senior class was a lesson to fuel us for our junior and senior years after that.
And Lord knows those were some spectacular seasons. All right. So let's take them one at a time and talk about 2004, your junior year. Before the playoffs, before the championship game in that season, what stands out to you?
Man, we were just we were clicking on all cylinders. We were beating everybody by a good margin. And when I say that, I mean the skill position players on offense a lot of times only play one or two series into the third quarter, and that was it as far as the starters. So you can imagine how much more stats anyone could have had after that, but we
Right.
weren't about that. But we got humbled really quickly when we played Vestavia. And I
Yeah,
think that
see, Vestavia has this habit of ruining undefeated seasons for us, which really, makes it so much sweeter what happened next year. But we'll get to that. Uh,
yes,
so yeah,
yes,
you guys lost in the final of the regular season at home against Vestavia.
yes,
So you got
yes.
humbled by them 2 years in a row, for goodness sake.
That is
Now, to be
correct.
fair, they were a classification higher, but still a rival.
We didn't care about that, Glenn.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
We didn't care about that. They were our number one rival, Vestavia. It's like Alabama and Auburn. So, but after that game, I think was the reality check that we needed and the reset that we needed. We really didn't have a competitive game, to be honest with you, in the playoffs until really the state championship game against Russellville at the Hoover Met.
Yeah, so in that game, they come out and punch us in the mouth, have a good, steady, time-consuming drive, and go up 7-0. Then we turn the ball over twice, and so we're down 7-0 after the first quarter. Any panic? Any concern? Were you cool? Were you collected? How were you feeling at that point?
I think there was a little uncertainty, but we knew the game plan that we had going into that game was definitely one that was going to be positive at the end of the day because, like you said, turnovers were self-inflicting.
But then in the second quarter, 3 touchdowns, which, by the way, is still a state record for touchdowns in a single quarter in a championship game. And you had one in the third on a long bomb from Austin. How'd you feel when you reeled that thing in? When you're like, okay, it's showtime now, baby.
We had talked about it in the halftime adjustments, Coach Jones and Coach Gann and Austin and myself about, some things that we saw. I remember it like yesterday. It was Rio 90 Hawk. And I have an option okay, to either sit the route down or I can go deep. About 5, 7 yards, I get around the cornerback and I knew I was going. There was nobody over the top. You could see me throw my hand up, and Austin ended up throwing one of the most beautiful balls, and I ended up tracking it down, and the rest was history.
But
But
at that point, of course, I was at the game. I was at all your games, but I remember when you caught that and reeled it in. I was like, okay, it's ball game now, baby. It's done. So that was you personally your second state championship since you played it in the 2002 game. Obviously, you were the premier receiver, which meant you, especially by your senior year, you're getting a lot of attention on the field from defenses, which opened up a lot of other guys to eat. Can you talk a little bit about your other receivers?
yes, yes, absolutely. So it was no secret. I was a big time recruit, and that did, like you said, open up the window for a lot of the other guys that were tremendous. You know, you got your Brandon Parks, who had the game of his life when we played Benjamin Russell the first time our senior year.
Yeah.
You've got guys like Will Cole, who just seemed to always get behind the defense for some crazy reason that year in 2005, our senior year, catching touchdown passes. You had Tyler Robbins, who was able to have some special plays and things of that nature to help us that way. You had Ladarius Woods, who would line up at wideout. And then also, you had Wilson Boardman, who was a semi bigger body than I was at tight end, that did just about any and everything that you asked him to do and then some. So, you know, you take all of those guys, and we were a close knit group because we worked hard. You cannot forget the defense at all. I mean, if I don't think anybody scored over 17 points on us the
Yeah,
entire year in
y-
2005.
yeah. You guys held them. The defense held them to an average of 8.9 points per game. That
That is absolutely insane.
yeah.
Okay.
Think about that. With the offense you guys had, if the defense is not going to let anybody over 10 points, you're going to blow everybody out, which we did.
Yes, yes, which is a
Including, thank goodness, Vestavia in the final regular season game to get you guys undefeated in the regular season. Talk about that Vestavia game. What do you remember about that?
that Vestavia game might be one of my best plays that I've made. Austin throws me a 5 yard hitch. I don't realize what I did until we watch film on Sunday. And if you look at that play, I literally make a juke move on a guy and he sits down literally on his behind in the middle of the play. It is absolutely insane. I did not know at all I did that until after the fact. But that game was a game that we, number one, marked on the schedule. Hey, we had just lost to Vestavia last 2 years. We didn't want that to happen, right? Again, our senior year. And then another thing was our senior year, it was going to be a failure if we didn't do what had never been done before. That is going undefeated, okay? And then also winning back-to-back state championships.
Right, right.
But that game, I think, was just a stepping stone to let us know, hey, all right, we control our own destiny. But it just fueled us for the remainder of the playoffs.
Yeah. Tell me about you talk about that play in the Vestavia game. Tell me about the catch you made against Benjamin Russell, one-handed grab down on along the sideline. The sideline is right in front of you right now as you speak.
Literally,
And
literally.
you're looking right basically at the spot where you made that catch down there.
I am, and I remember it like it was yesterday. So the call, and if I'm not mistaken, I think we're up 24-17, which was the final score, and it's about 9 minutes left in the game. So we needed to chew some clock, basically run our 4 minute offense, which is keeping the clock rolling. Okay.
Right.
And so we call the play, and it's Pratt, and I want to say it's 8380 no 380 Eagle. Okay. So the number 3 receiver, which is the furthest inside receiver, is Tyler Robbins. And that means that he stays in and he blocks. Okay. So the other 2 receivers are myself and I believe it was Brandon Paul. Okay. The route that I had was not a route that was going to get us the first down. Okay. Unless Austin pump faked me, which that told me to turn upfield or whatnot, up the sideline. And so the only thing I remember is when I turned my head, when he pump faked me, I saw 2 defenders in front of me. I'm like, how am I going to catch this ball? Like, if he throws this, like, it has to be over my head. It's probably going to go out of bounds, or he's going to have to go throw it to Brandon Paul. So I didn't think he was going to throw it to me. You can kind of see me like iffy or whatnot. And then I see he throws it. I'm like, oh, snap. He's throwing it to me. And by the grace of God, I stick my right hand up and I make, I guess, what kids say now, Odell Beckham catches, which are one-handed. And I caught it, man, and ended up getting the first down. It extended the drive. We ended up getting like 2 or 3 more first downs to really chew up the clock at that time. And then Steve Freeman had a late run to seal the deal, man, and to send us into the state championship
Yeah,
game.
so you're off to the championship. So the championship game against Buckhorn at Legion Field the very next week, in many ways, kind of anticlimactic because it never was even a game. I mean, right from the get go, you guys just pasted them.
I'll just say this. If you were playing Homewood High School on that night, may God be with you, okay? You did not want to play us that night, okay? And that's from literally when we went out for the coin toss. As the referee is explaining everything to us, okay, the captains for Buckhorn swaying back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm trying to understand, is this something that
They're trying to
is this
intimidate
like you're
us.
trying to intimidate me? Yeah. Or are you really nervous like I think you are? And they definitely were nervous for sure. And I knew right then, I was like, it was going to be a long night for Buckhorn. And the rest is history. We end up playing, I think, 1 series into the second half.
On the one hand, you have to be a little sad that you don't get to play the whole second half, the starters. But how fun was it to basically just sit back and cheer and live through that whole moment? Basically getting to celebrate a championship for 2 quarters, watching
I,
the younger guys go out there and also dominate. How fun was that?
it was extremely fun just for the simple fact that I think it just came full circle. All of the work that was put in, from the summer going into that season, all of the 7-on-7 passing camps, 1-on-1s, the weightlifting sessions. And I'm not just talking about the mandatory sessions. I mean, we were people that actually did extra work, whether it was after the weight room, doing more work in the weight room, or going to the field after we did drills out there and staying after. So those were the little things that a lot of people don't see. And I hope that, some of the current Homewood players, if they're watching this, we put in the work. And what you put in this game of football is definitely what you're going to get out of it for sure. And it was surreal, that second half of that state championship game, to be able to really know that the game was in hand. In addition to that, being able to talk to some of the people on the sidelines, at the same time, coach up some of the younger players that were coming up behind us,
Yeah,
going into the next season.
all in the context of joyfulness, right? I mean, you had to have
There
been
you
a
go.
glad nod, right? Uh,
Yes,
you
sir.
know, you talk a little bit about the culture on that team. I'm one of these big believers, and I'm sure you are too, that championship teams have got to have a particular type of culture, and you guys seem to have had it. Can you talk about that?
We
I mean,
did.
beyond
We
what
did.
you've already said about the hard work and putting in the extra work, I'm talking about the camaraderie.
So we were so close that year in particular. Really all of the years that we won it for sure, we were close. But that senior year was just a magical year because it was people on that team. We were guys that had came up through the Homewood system. That's rather playing baseball in Little League, basketball, coming up in the middle school, playing sports together there. We just knew each other. Okay. That's hanging out with each other after the games and conversating as well. That's to freestyling after every win on the bus ride back to the school. Man, we were looking forward to doing that because there was no way we were doing that if we lost. So those were some of the little things that we were looking forward to as a team that just made us, very close knit together. And ultimately, I think, really had us successful when it came to what you saw in terms of the product that we put out there on the field with.
Yeah. Okay, I got one more question for you about that team, and then we're going to talk about something else.
All right.
And I know what your answer is going to be, but I want to hear it. Could you guys have beaten Hoover that year?
For sure. For sure.
I love
For
it.
sure.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
I think we would have been pretty evenly matched, but senior year for sure, or without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, just for context for our viewers, this Hoover was the classification higher. They had Rush Probst. They were on MTV, for God's sake. They were getting all this national attention for the run that they were on. And it was very upsetting for us Homewood fans that Homewood was on this epic roll too. And I think, and I agree with you, we had the better team, particularly your senior year. So that it was frustrating. And man, I wish that game could have been played somewhere, maybe in a parking lot, for goodness sake.
Real quickly, I'll tell you a funny story too. I was a workout freak. Okay, all right. Anytime I could get on the field and it was available, I did it. So sometimes I would go over to Hoover, to be honest with you. This is going into my freshman year, okay? And I would actually work out with them, okay? In terms of their skill position players, all right?
Right.
And this was like extra work. So we would do that. And there was one day Rush Probst came out of his office and saw us.
Oh, he tried to get you to go to Hoover, didn't he?
I think you see where I'm going with this. So I ended up basically, he said, hey, Tim, can you come up to my office or whatnot? And I go up there with Cornelius Williams, and we're talking for a little bit. And then he tells Cornelius to go out of the room. And then he basically says along the lines of, hey, Tim, I know you have a Hoover zip code, even though you're zoned for Homewood. I'd love to have you. I told him I had to get back to you. But the rest is history or whatnot. I had no intentions of going to
I hear you.
Hoover
Thank goodness. Thank
at
goodness.
all.
I'm glad you brought this up because unfortunately that high school football has become that now. I mean, it's always been an issue, but it's even more so now, particularly now with NIL coming down to high school,
Right.
has become, players getting stolen by other teams and so forth. And I hate it. I hate it. So I'm glad you brought it up for that reason. And then the other reason why I brought it up, I'm glad you brought it up, is because part of the reason why I wanted to do this series is because I wanted to try to demonstrate for Homewood players that are coming through now and for future Homewood players that you don't have to go anywhere but Homewood to achieve your dreams. You can get it done at Homewood. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. I'm a living witness, man. I mean, some of the resources that these kids have now. I've seen the weight room that's over there versus the weight room that we had. The new locker room that's downstairs below this press box that they're actually going to be getting. In addition to that, and you had some coaches that were actually coaching us back then, almost 20 years ago, that are still involved right now in the
Yeah,
football program. And
that's
you
right.
don't see that. That is rare. So that's a true testament that the coaches most definitely are for the players. But I know for a fact the success that they with them almost being Saraland, only the sky's the limit from here. And I hope that they understand that and they take the next step. True.
Again, the point is you don't have to go anywhere else, man. But
Absolutely.
that's a perfect transition into talking about your recruitment, man. Everybody's got good recruiting stories. Let me hear yours.
Mine was crazy. Mine was absolutely crazy, insane from half of my day being coaches coming to the school and talking to me and showing me film to after practice when I get home, I've got cars that are parked in front of my house and I've got coaches ready to eat dinner with me and my family at the time. So from
And
that,
this is before text messaging. Imagine how your phone would have been
oh,
blowing up at that point.
oh, I didn't get a phone until I got to college.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was the time where you had landlines and you had coaches not only sending you mail, okay, letters, handwritten letters in the mail, but they were leaving voicemails at 9 and 10 o'clock at night. But it was just crazy. It was just absolutely crazy. Nonstop phone calls, letters, visits. I had over
Promises.
all of that. All of that. Over 60 scholarship offers is what I had, 5-star recruit. I didn't get a chance to go to a lot of the parents after party that we used to watch the replay of the game after the game or whatnot because we had to pack up and get ready to go to a school and go to a football game on Saturday morning, and we had
Right.
to drive there. So,
Yeah.
just imagine that. Just imagine all of that stuff going on for someone that hasn't been through that. But it was a fun ride. I wouldn't change it for nothing. The treatment and things of that nature. Oh my gosh, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So you eventually decided to go to Auburn, Tuberville, right? Uh,
Correct.
Senator Tuberville now.
Yes, yes.
What are your thoughts on first of all on Tuberville and Senator Tuberville?
Yes. So I don't know the Senator Tuberville that well, but as far as the coach,
Yeah.
Tuberville, he was pretty honest when it came to, the culture and the philosophy that they had being successful. When I got there, we had ended up winning 5 years in a row
Yeah,
against
thanks for bringing that
Bama.
up. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
I had to, man. I had to. Then we won the following year, 6 in a row or whatnot. And then
Yes, yes, yes. And that damn thumb he kept putting up.
so then things started turning when Coach Saban got there, of course. But he was a stand-up guy. I
So
didn't have any
you
issues.
never had any problems or issues with him.
I did not. I did not. He gave me an open door policy. I was able to graduate in 3.5 years. I have nothing bad to say about the coach, Tuberville.
Yeah, yeah. Senator, maybe we could, have a conversation,
That's up for debate.
off the
That's up for
video, right? Off the
Yes,
interview.
sir.
What do you take the most pride in about your time and happiness in about your time playing for Homewood?
Man, it's so much, but I think being able to, develop as a student athlete, it was a lot of the same messages that I got from coaches and teachers, right? Which is being the best that you could possibly be and you get out what you put in. Okay. So those are some of the things that I think for sure for me personally, I take and really apply them on a day-to-day basis right now when it comes to decision making in life, whether it's personally with my family, to professionally.
All right, let's shift gears now and let's do something that I call Neato stats. Of Homewood's 18 region championships, you were involved in 3 of them. As a starting receiver, you were 41-3. Well, actually, now we got to add in those 2 your freshman year, so it's actually 43-3. That's amazing, man. Even more amazing, you ended your career winning 29 of your last 30 games and the last 20 in a row. Of Homewood's 6 state championships, you were involved with 3, a starter in all 3. As you said earlier, you guys won 2 championships in a row, something that's never been done in Homewood before or since. You were involved with the only Homewood team to go 15-0. You were first team All State in 2004 and first team All State in 2005. You were also All Metro from the Birmingham News in 2004 and 2005. You were selected to play in the Alabama Mississippi High School All Star game. You were selected to play in the University of Alabama High School All-Star Game. You were named by the Sports Writers Association to the Super 12 list twice. You were named by the Birmingham News to the Super All-State list twice. Probably your best decoration of all, you were a Parade All-American in 2005. But let's talk about stats now. First of all, your season numbers. Your 73 catches in 2005, your senior year, is fifth all-time for a season. Your 84 catches in 2004 is second all-time for a season. Your 996 total receiving yards in 2005 is fourth all-time in Homewood history for a season. Your 1,360 yards in 2004 is the first all-time for a season in Homewood history. And your 14 touchdown catches in 2004 is the first all-time in Homewood history for a season. Now let's talk about career. Your 15 yards per catch average is fifth all-time in Homewood history. Your 206 total catches in your career is first all-time in Homewood history. Your 23 total touchdown catches is first all-time in Homewood history. And your 3,085 total receiving yards is first all-time in Homewood history. So as it stands now, you're the top receiver in Homewood High School history. And we've had some great receivers come through. How do you feel about all those numbers?
The bar has been set to you younger guys.
I hear you, brother.
Yes. So please, you younger wideouts, if you're watching this, the challenge has been sent to you. Okay. So I hope to see this record being broken, and records are meant to be broken. I can't wait until it is.
But
Nice.
I love that. I love you say, "Hey, the bar's set, man. Come on, Homewood. Let's do better." That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I want to do with you what I call rapid fire. Who was your favorite teacher in high school?
Without a shadow of a doubt, Miss Michelle Coxwell, and we share the same birthday, October 23rd.
What did she teach?
Mass communications. So I got a chance to show my personality a lot.
What was your favorite food in the lunchroom?
To be honest with you, Glenn, I didn't have a favorite food because I ate all of them. Okay. I was a high metabolism type of kid.
Do you recall where you were when you first heard about 9/11?
I was in middle school, and I believe I was walking down the hall, and I saw all of the teachers basically busting out of their classrooms, and they were talking about it and saying, "Oh, the building just got crashed," and I forgot who had the TV on at the time, but I ended up sneaking in a classroom or whatnot to see what was going on, and that's when I had saw like the first plane had ran into one of the towers.
It was so hard to just to contemplate, even for me as an adult, but for you as a middle schooler, it had to been like, wow, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. And we didn't know what was going on at all, but we knew something was going on.
So in high school, did you have MySpace or were you on Facebook yet?
I had MySpace.
You had MySpace?
I had MySpace. Yeah, MySpace was my go-to, man.
In high school, who was your celebrity crush?
Probably Halle Berry.
Good choice.
Yeah, just and looks probably just the same.
Just as good today.
Yes.
Did you have a favorite TV show?
I guess you could say 106 in part, because I used to watch music videos and MTV, TRL.
Yeah.
One of the things that, hey, when you got out of school and ran home, if you wanted to see the latest videos and trending videos, those were the shows that you wanted to see. So
what about movies? Any favorite movies back then?
My mother was a manager at a video warehouse store in Tennessee, and she had boxes when we moved down here, the VCR tapes, okay?
Yeah.
Of all of the scary movies. I'm talking Friday the 13th, Halloween, Child's Play, Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger. So I grew up on those
80s and 90s horror movies.
Yes, me and my siblings.
What about video games?
NCAA, NBA Live, those are my go-to.
Okay, so the year is 2004. You're cruising around Homewood on a summer night. What are you listening to?
Probably Lil Jon and the East Side Boys, probably Ludacris, Lil Wayne, and my mom probably hear this and say, you shouldn't have been listening to that. 50 Cent probably as well. Those were some of my go-tos.
What were you driving?
I was driving my brother's hand-me-down car,
Of
my
course.
older brother, and it
Yeah.
was a 1996 Geo Tracker, and it was turquoise, but you couldn't tell him or me anything. It had tinted windows, 17-inch chromed out rims, and it had two, I think, 12 or 15-inch speakers in the back with a 500-watt amp, and you could hear me from a mile away coming
You
to
were
school.
thumping Little Wayne.
Oh, you could hear me from a mile away. Absolutely.
Where would you have been cruising to?
Probably to a football field. I like I told you, I was a workout guru, man.
You had to get your catches in, man.
Man, I if it was just a patch of grass and it was available, I went to it. If I got something to eat, I probably went to CC's Pizza because it was the cheapest buffet that you could ever go to.
Yeah, CC's buffet.
Oh my gosh. And if I didn't go
If
there,
you had good metabolism, you probably did a lot of damage on that CC's
I
buffet.
did. Absolutely. Or if I didn't go there, then I probably went to the Paw Paw Patch.
Yeah, Paw Paw Patch, good stuff.
Yep.
Any athletes that were a role model for you?
Allen Iverson really was, from a culture and personality standpoint.
We're talking about practice, man. We talk about practice.
Allen Iverson was that guy that, to be so little, but pound for pound, probably one of the best to ever do it in the NBA. Was really somebody that I definitely looked up to.
Okay, this is the last question and maybe the toughest one of all. Sum up your time at Homewood in one sentence.
I don't know if this is gonna sum it up, but it'll give you just how exciting of a time it was. I'm just gonna say, what a time to be alive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I hear
What a time to be alive. If you were alive around that time, the success that we had, the people that we had coming up, you know that, hey, Homewood was rocking and rolling. It was rocking.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. That's a great answer.
I appreciate this opportunity, Glenn. I love what you're doing in regards to getting former players involved. I applaud you for it. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Tim.